The Ambassador Hotel, Los Angeles. The Ambassador opened in 1921 on Wilshire Boulevard, spanning 23 acres of Spanish colonial revival architecture. By the 1960s, its Coconut Grove nightclub remained Hollywood's premier venue. Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, and the Academy Awards all appeared there. The 500 rooms housed visiting stars and 6 U.S. presidents. Everything changed on June 5, 1968, when Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated in the hotel's pantry following his California primary victory speech. Busboy Juan Romero cradled the dying senator, a photograph that defined the era. The shooting transformed the Ambassador from glamorous destination to somber memorial. Tourism collapsed, despite the hotel remaining open 2 more decades. The property struggled financially through the 1970s and 80s as newer hotels in Beverly Hills and Century City drew upscale clientele. Maintaining 23 acres became economically impossible. Gardens required constant care, buildings needed updates, and the location no longer commanded premium rates. It closed in 1989. Preservationists battled developers for years through courts and public hearings. The Los Angeles Unified School District purchased the site for $57.2 million, demolishing the hotel in 2006 despite protests. Only the Coconut Grove's artificial palm tree column survived, relocated to the Hollywood Museum, where celebrities danced and a presidential candidate died. Schools now educate 4,000 students. Guests praised the grand ballrooms, lush gardens with peacocks and swans, and celebrity sightings. Later, reviews noted dated rooms, worn carpets, and declining service. The tragedy permanently stained its legacy. Revival became impossible, despite rebranding attempts. The Fontainebleau Hotel, Miami Beach. Morris Lapidus designed the original Fontainebleau, which opened in 1954 on Miami Beach's ocean front. Its dramatic, curved facade and famous staircase to nowhere, a grand lobby staircase leading to a blank wall purely for effect, epitomized space-age optimism. By the 1960s, the Rat Pack performed nightly, James Bond filmed Goldfinger poolside, and America's elite escaped winter there. The hotel pioneered the Miami Beach resort concept with 1,200 rooms, multiple pools including the famous kidney-shaped main pool, 3 nightclubs, and 6 restaurants. A self-contained vacation universe. Frank Sinatra maintained a permanent suite. Elvis stayed while filming. The circular lobby became instantly recognizable from countless films representing mid-century American excess. The heyday ended in the 1970s as jet travel made Caribbean destinations more accessible. Why Miami Beach when the Bahamas offered exotic appeal? The hotel changed ownership repeatedly, each promising restoration but delivering patchwork maintenance. Rooms developed plumbing problems, pools needed resurfacing, mechanical systems failed. South Beach declined into a retiree haven. Extensive 1990s and 2000s renovations systematically destroyed Lapidus's vision. The 2008 expansion added 595 rooms but demolished significant historic portions. The staircase to nowhere was relocated and altered. Guest rooms were gutted. Original terrazzo floors, custom fixtures, and Lapidus's distinctive woggles, his decorative abstract designs, were discarded as dated rather than preserved. 1960s guests described the theatrical architecture as walking into a movie set and praised the celebrity atmosphere. Others found it garish, preferring understated elegance to Lapidus's more is more philosophy. Bold curves and bright colors attracted escapism seekers but repelled traditionalists. The Penn Station Hotel, New York. Opened in 1919 above Pennsylvania Station, the Hotel Pennsylvania was once the world's largest hotel with 2,200 rooms across 22 stories. Its telephone number, Pennsylvania 65000, inspired Glenn Miller's famous 1940 song. The hotel's fortunes were tied to Penn Station below, when the magnificent Beaux-Arts Station, a soaring glass and steel temple modeled after Roman baths, was demolished in 1963 and 1968 for underground Madison Square garden. The hotel lost its architectural context and prestige. The grand entrance hall vanished beneath cramped concrete, making arrivals feel like subway commuters rather than travelers. The demolition sparked the modern preservation movement, but came too late. Throughout the 1970s, the Hotel Pennsylvania declined into a budget option, known for affordable rates and garden proximity rather than luxury. Its vast size became a liability. 2,200 rooms required constant upkeep. The building struggled with outdated HVAC, 1910s plumbing, and insufficient electrical service. Guests complained about garden event noise, thin walls, and Eisenhower-era bathrooms. The neighborhood transformed from upscale to gritty through the 1970s and 80s. The 33rd Street block became known for adult theaters, hustlers, and crime. While Times Square's 1990s renaissance improved conditions, the Hotel Pennsylvania never recovered. It became where you stayed when everywhere else was full or when needing rock-bottom prices. 1960s guests appreciated the location and prices, but noted scuffed furniture, faded carpets, and inconsistent heating. Rooms were adequate and serviceable rather than comfortable. Later decades brought harsher reviews: depressing, run down, avoid if possible. The hotel closed permanently in April 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. Demolition began in 2023, ending the 104-year run. The Statler Hilton, Detroit. The Detroit Statler opened in 1915, becoming a Statler Hilton in 1954. Its 800 rooms made it Michigan's largest hotel through the 1960s, dominating Grand Circus Park in downtown Detroit. The grand ballrooms accommodated auto industry elite. Ford, GM, and Chrysler executives held press conferences and shareholder meetings there during Detroit's manufacturing peak. The hotel pioneered innovations that became industry standards. It featured private bathrooms in every room rather than shared hall facilities. Morning newspapers arrived automatically at doors. Circulating ice water systems eliminated staff requests. These revolutionary 1910s features established Statler's reputation for modern convenience. Its Grand Circus Park location placed it at the heart of Detroit's cultural and business activity, when the city's per capita income ranked among the nation's highest. Detroit's decline through the 1970s and 80s devastated downtown with catastrophic speed. Middle-class residents fled to suburbs following the 1967 riots. Industrial jobs disappeared to automation and foreign competition. Downtown became a place people left at 5 p.m. rather than a destination. The Statler Hilton limped through ownership changes and renovations, but couldn't overcome neighborhood deterioration. Convention business evaporated as planners chose suburban locations with parking and perceived safety. The hotel closed in 1975, barely a decade into Detroit's urban crisis. Guests praised efficient service and modern amenities. Private bathrooms and reliable hot water were particularly valued. Reviews noted it lacked coastal glamour, with businesslike and functional decor rather than luxury. The building stood vacant 3 decades. Squatters, vandals, and scrappers stripped copper wiring, brass fixtures, and lobby marble. Windows broke, weather damaged interiors, and the structure became unsound. Demolition in 2005 removed one of Detroit's last architectural links to prosperity, though by then it was an unsalvageable ruin. The Astor Hotel, New York. The Astor Hotel opened in 1904 on Times Square at Broadway and 45th Street, becoming the social center of Broadway's theater district. Designed by Clinton and Russell in German Renaissance style, its rooftop garden offered dining and entertainment with skyline views. The Hunting Room restaurant, decorated with dark wood paneling and sporting trophies, attracted theater celebrities and politicians. Ballrooms hosted debutante balls and galas for elite families. Vanderbilt, Astor, and Rockefeller names appeared regularly in society pages. Vincent Astor maintained the property through the early 20th century, ensuring it remained at New York society's center. The location was perfect, heart of Times Square, surrounded by theaters and entertainment headquarters. By the 1960s, Times Square's transformation from elegant theater district to seedy entertainment zone profoundly affected the Astor. The area's association with adult theaters, peep shows, pornography shops, and petty crime made the Grand Grand Hotel feel absurd, like wearing a tuxedo to a dive bar. Families avoided Times Square after dark when theaters drew crowds. The Astor struggled to maintain its image while drug dealers operated on corners and prostitutes solicited outside. Maintaining the aging 20-story structure became economically challenging as costs rose, but rates couldn't keep pace. Guests appreciated the location and theatrical atmosphere, with reviews mentioning the convenience of walking to shows. However, 1960s reviews increasingly noted dated furnishings and declining service. Rooms were tired and in need of updating. Public spaces felt shabby with worn carpets and scuffed furniture. Staff turnover increased as management cut costs. The Astor closed in 1967, demolished immediately for the 54-story office tower at 1515 Broadway. The decision represented economics over preservation, a pattern repeated throughout Manhattan as real estate values soared and air rights became more valuable than buildings. The demolition symbolized Times Square's descent before its 1990s renaissance, when Disney invested billions to restore family-friendly entertainment. By then, grand hotels had vanished, replaced by office towers. The Savoy Plaza Hotel, New York. The Savoy Plaza opened in 1927 on Fifth Avenue at 59th Street, facing Central Park, replacing an earlier hotel. Its 33 stories contained 1,000 rooms of understated elegance designed by McKim, Mead, and White. The location, between the Plaza Hotel and where the original Savoy stood, created a concentration of luxury accommodations on Manhattan's most prestigious block across from Central Park. During the 1960s, the Savoy Plaza catered to wealthy travelers seeking a more intimate alternative to the massive plaza next door. Its cafe lounge attracted society figures who preferred discretion. Central Park suites were prized for views and privacy, occupied by wealthy families on extended visits or executives maintaining semi-permanent residences. The architecture reflected refined Italian Renaissance style rather than flashy Art Deco, with subtle detailing appealing to old money sensibilities. The hotel's fate was sealed by location economics rather than operational failure. It was profitable and well-maintained. General Motors purchased the property in 1964 for $22 million, demolishing the perfectly functioning hotel to construct the 50-story GM building designed by Edward Durrell Stone. The decision sparked preservation debates that eventually led to landmark protection laws, but legislation came too late. Preservationists argued the hotel represented important architectural heritage and its demolition would irreparably damage Fifth Avenue's character. GM countered it needed prominent Manhattan headquarters. The site offered high visibility, excellent transportation, and Central Park views. Guests praised the hotel's quiet sophistication and attentive service. Unlike larger competitors, the Savoy Plaza maintained a residential atmosphere where staff remembered regulars' preferences, newspapers, and drink orders. It felt like a well-run private club. Room service was prompt, concierges secured impossible theater tickets, and the front desk handled requests with efficiency and discretion. The Traymore Hotel, Atlantic City. The Traymore opened in its final form in 1915, a massive yellow brick structure dominating Atlantic City's boardwalk between Illinois and Indiana Avenues. Designed by Price and McClanahan in Queen Anne and Edwardian Baroque styles, its distinctive central tower and ornate terracotta detailing made it instantly recognizable. At its peak, the 600-room Traymore exemplified the grand resorted hotels that made Atlantic City America's premier beach destination before air travel democratized tropical vacations. During the 1960s, Traymore struggled as Atlantic City declined from fashionable resort to fading relic. Jet travel sent middle-class vacationers to Florida and the Caribbean. Why endure crowded Atlantic City beaches when Miami or San Juan offered guaranteed sunshine and warmer water? The city's aging infrastructure, deteriorating boardwalk, outdated hotels, and increasing crime repelled families. The Traymore, requiring expensive upkeep with aging mechanical systems and elaborate architectural details, found too many empty rooms. It couldn't lower rates enough to fill rooms without operating at a loss, yet couldn't charge premium rates given the neighborhood's decline. The hotel closed in 1972, standing vacant 6 years while the city contemplated its future. Various redevelopment schemes, housing, offices, casino, were proposed, but none materialized. On September 17, 1978, the Traymore was imploded before 20,000 spectators gathered on the beach and boardwalk. The controlled demolition using 800 pounds of explosives took less than 30 seconds, creating civic catharsis as Atlantic City confronted its faded glory. Images appeared in newspapers nationwide, symbolizing Atlantic City's transition from resort destination to casino gambling center. Former guests remembered ocean views and boardwalk excitement, particularly watching sunrise over the Atlantic from bed. The proximity to entertainment piers and restaurants made it convenient for families. Later, reviews noted increasing shabbiness, peeling paint, worn furnishings, and exhaustion. The Sherman House, Chicago. The Sherman House opened in 1837, rebuilt after the Great Chicago Fire in 1871, and rebuilt again in 1925 in its final form. Located at Randolph and Clark Streets in the Loop, the 17-story hotel contained nearly 1,800 rooms, making it one of Chicago's largest. The Basement College Inn nightclub was a major entertainment venue through the swing era, broadcasting live radio shows nationally that established Chicago's jazz reputation. Big bands led by Benny Goodman, Glenn Miller, and Tommy Dorsey performed regularly, with networks carrying the music coast to coast. During Prohibition, basement speakeasies attracted Chicago's elite and gangsters, including Al Capone, who reportedly maintained a private table. By the 1960s, the College Inn had closed as tastes shifted toward rock and roll, but the hotel remained a convention staple. Chicago's Loop declined dramatically through the 1960s and 70s as businesses relocated to suburban office parks with free parking and modern facilities. The Sherman House's enormous size became a liability. Heating, cooling, and maintaining 1,800 rooms proved prohibitively expensive as occupancy fell below 50%. The hotel struggled with outdated infrastructure, 1920s plumbing that frequently failed, electrical systems inadequate for air conditioning, and elevators that broke down regularly. Staff costs for operating such a large property consumed revenue as unions negotiated higher wages. The hotel closed in 1973, unable to compete with newer properties like the Hyatt Regency with its revolutionary atrium design. Guests praised the central location, walking distance to theaters, department stores, and offices, and spacious rooms. However, many found it impersonal and dated, describing it as cavernous and institutional. Massive public spaces felt empty outside major events. The building was demolished in phases from 1973 to 1980, with parts remaining operational even as sections were torn down. Guests checked in while wrecking crews worked on adjacent wings. The James R. Thompson Center eventually replaced it. The Biltmore Hotel, Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Biltmore opened October 1, 1923, quickly becoming the city's premier luxury hotel. Its 683 rooms featured Beaux-Arts architecture with Spanish-Italian Renaissance detailing designed by Schulze and Weaver, the firm behind the Waldorf Astoria. The Crystal Ballroom, decorated with elaborate frescoes and gold leaf, hosted 8 Academy Award ceremonies between 1931 and 1942. During the 1960s, the Biltmore remained downtown's finest hotel, serving business travelers while Hollywood stars preferred Beverly Hills properties. The hotel achieved lasting infamy when Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, was reportedly last seen alive in its lobby in January 1947 before her mutilated body was discovered in a vacant lot. The unsolved murder became Los Angeles noir mythology, spawning countless books and films. John F. Kennedy used the hotel during the 1960 Democratic Convention, holding strategy sessions in suites overlooking Pershing Square. Downtown Los Angeles declined dramatically through the 1970s and 80s as businesses and residents fled to the West Side, Valley, and Orange County. The Biltmore struggled as the surrounding neighborhood deteriorated with increasing homelessness, crime, and vacant storefronts. Corporate headquarters relocated to Century City and Beverly Hills, eliminating business travelers. Tourists increasingly stayed in Hollywood or Santa Santa Monica. The hotel closed briefly in 1984, facing possible demolition as developers eyed the land for office towers. Preservationists fought successfully to save the structure, arguing its architectural and cultural significance warranted protection. Landmark designation in 1969 protected the exterior and significant interior spaces. The Biltmore still operates as the Millennium Biltmore Los Angeles after $40 million restoration in the 1980s and additional 2000s renovations. However, extensive renovations altered much original interior beyond protected public spaces. 1960s guests noted elegant public spaces, the soaring lobby with painted ceiling, ornate ballrooms, and gallery bars' mahogany paneling, and excellent service, though some found it formal and intimidating compared to relaxed Beverly Hills properties. The property survived partly due to landmark protection, but the 1960s-era Biltmore effectively vanished beneath layers of renovation. The Bellevue Stratford Hotel, Philadelphia. The Bellevue Stratford opened in 1904 as Philadelphia's grandest hotel, dominating Broad and Walnut Streets. Designed by G.W. and W.D. Hewitt in French Renaissance style, its ornate architecture featured a mansard roof, elaborate stone carvings, and 725 rooms across 19 floors. During the 1960s, it remained the center of Philadelphia society. Debutante balls, political fundraisers, and business meetings filled ornate ballrooms decorated with crystal chandeliers and gold leaf. Every American president from Theodore Roosevelt through Ronald Reagan stayed there, making it Philadelphia's unofficial presidential palace. The hotel's reputation collapsed suddenly in July 1976 when a Legionnaire's disease outbreak killed 29 people and sickened 182 others attending an American Legion convention. Scientists traced the previously unknown bacteria, subsequently named Legionella, to the hotel's air conditioning cooling towers where warm, stagnant water provided ideal breeding conditions. The bacteria spread through the air conditioning system to guest rooms and meeting spaces. Though contamination was quickly contained and posed no ongoing threat after cooling towers were cleaned, the association with death and disease devastated the hotel's public image. Bookings plummeted immediately. The mysterious illness made front-page news nationwide and led evening broadcasts for weeks. Despite being cleared by health inspectors confirming bacteria elimination, guests avoided the property. Convention planners canceled bookings citing safety concerns. Corporate travelers chose other hotels. The name Bellevue Stratford became synonymous with the disease itself. The hotel lost an estimated $1 million in cancellations within months. Advertising campaigns emphasizing safety failed. The psychological damage proved irreparable. The Bellevue Stratford closed permanently in November 1976, just 4 months after the outbreak. Unable to overcome public perception despite eliminating the actual hazard, the building stood vacant for years. During vacancy, vandals damaged interiors and weather infiltrated through damaged roofing, accelerating deterioration. Former 1960s guests remembered the grand ballroom's gold leaf ceilings, modeled after Versailles, and refined restaurant service where waiters remembered regulars' preferences. Reviews praised elegance and attention to detail, particularly afternoon tea service. After years of vacancy, the building reopened in 1989 as the Bellevue, a mixed-use property with boutique hotel, offices, retail, and food court. Only 170 rooms remained, a fraction of the original 725. The Legionnaire's disease outbreak fundamentally changed building codes nationwide, requiring regular cooling tower maintenance. The Ambassador Hotel, Chicago. Not to be confused with Los Angeles's tragic Ambassador, Chicago's version opened in 1926 in the Gold Coast neighborhood on North State Parkway. The 25-story Art Deco tower designed by Robert de Golyer contained 1,000 rooms and became famous for the Pump Room restaurant, where Humphrey Bogart, Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, and countless celebrities dined regularly when performing in Chicago. During the 1960s, the Pump Room remained one of Chicago's most prestigious restaurants, requiring reservations weeks in advance and enforcing strict dress codes requiring jackets for men. The hotel's proximity to the Rush Street Entertainment District made it extremely popular with celebrities and convention-goers seeking nightlife. Its rooftop nightclub offered skyline views and dancing to orchestras and later rock bands. The Ambassador represented Chicago's sophisticated side, equally cosmopolitan as coastal competitors. The lobby featured Art Deco murals and custom light fixtures, while guest rooms offered offered modern conveniences like radios and television. Chicago's entertainment districts shifted dramatically away from Rush Street through the 1970s as River North and Wicker Park emerged as nightlife centers. The Ambassador's neighborhood became seedier, with adult entertainment establishments replacing legitimate theaters and restaurants. The hotel struggled to maintain its upscale image as the area declined. Property changed ownership multiple times through the 1970s and 80s, with each owner attempting revitalization through renovations and rebranding. At various points, it operated as the Ambassador East and West when a second tower was added. None reversed declining occupancy or restored the hotel's reputation. Guests raved about the Pump Room's celebrity sightings. The restaurant maintained Booth 1, where famous patrons were seated, creating spectacle for other diners. The central location for exploring Chicago's nightlife, shopping, and museums earned consistent praise. Later, reviews noted increasingly worn furnishings, inconsistent service as financial struggles led to staff cuts, and maintenance issues like unreliable heating and plumbing problems. The hotel closed permanently in 1989 after years of declining business. The building was demolished in 2005-2006, replaced by a residential tower containing luxury condominiums. The Pump Room briefly reopened in 2011 in the public Chicago Hotel, attempting to trade on nostalgic name recognition, but closed permanently in 2017. The closure ended the last tangible connection to the Ambassador's glamorous past. The Roosevelt Hotel, New Orleans. The Roosevelt opened in 1893 as the Grunewald, rebuilt in 1923, and renamed the Roosevelt by owner Seymour Weiss to honor President Theodore Roosevelt, who had stayed there. During the 1960s transition period, when it was briefly renamed the Fairmont in 1965, it remained New Orleans' premier hotel, 200 rooms of Southern elegance in the Central Business District at 130 Roosevelt Way. The Blue Room nightclub hosted Louis Armstrong, Liberace, and other major entertainers, becoming one of the South's premier performance venues. The Sazerac Bar, decorated with Art Deco murals depicting Louisiana history, claimed to be the birthplace of the iconic Sazerac cocktail. New Orleans' economy struggled through the 1970s and 80s as oil industry downturns devastated the regional economy and urban crime increased. Tourism declined as the city's reputation suffered. The hotel changed ownership repeatedly. Fairmont Hotels, Deutsche Company, and others, each time with grand renovation plans that never materialized due to insufficient capital. While the property never closed permanently, it declined significantly through the 1980s and 90s, losing its premium status to newer properties like the Windsor Court. Hurricane Katrina in August 2005 flooded the hotel's first 3 floors with 4 feet of contaminated water containing sewage, chemicals, and debris. The flood forced immediate evacuation, with some guests and staff rescued by helicopter from the roof. The disaster precipitated extended closure while ownership assessed damage and secured financing. The complete $170 million renovation gutted the entire interior, removing all damaged materials and rebuilding from the studs. The hotel reopened in November 2009 as the Roosevelt, attempting to recapture its original name and glory. However, virtually nothing remained of the 1960s era interior. Guest rooms were completely redesigned in contemporary style. The Blue Room was converted to a ballroom rather than preserved as a performance venue, ending its legendary entertainment history. Modern mechanical systems, updated plumbing and electrical, and contemporary furnishings replaced historic elements. Only the Sazerac Bar retained significant historical character, with its Art Deco murals carefully restored. 1960s guests praised elegant ballrooms decorated with elaborate plasterwork and crystal chandeliers, and particularly the Blue Room's entertainment. Seeing Louis Armstrong or Pete Fountain perform was described as magical. The location near the French Quarter made it convenient for exploring New Orleans. However, some found the hotel overly formal and stuffy. Later, reviews noted creeping shabbiness, worn carpets, dated bathrooms, and inconsistent maintenance. The Roosevelt technically survives today, but it's a reconstruction rather than preservation. The Morrison Hotel, Chicago. The Morrison opened in 1925 at Madison and Clark Streets in Chicago's Loop, offering an astounding 2,500 rooms across its 45-story Art Deco tower. At opening, it was the world's largest hotel, underscoring Chicago's importance as America's convention capital and central transportation hub. Designed by Holabird and Roche, the hotel's massive scale accommodated the enormous conventions that regularly descended on Chicago. The Terrace Garden restaurant on an upper floor offered views of the Loop and lakefront. The vast ground floor contained shops, a travel agency, and services, making the Morrison a self-contained city. Guests theoretically never needed to leave. Its size accommodated enormous conventions that smaller properties couldn't handle. Political organizations, fraternal orders, and corporate meetings regularly booked hundreds or thousands of rooms simultaneously. Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, and Dwight Eisenhower all stayed there during Chicago visits. The Loop's decline through the 1970s hit the Morrison particularly hard, given its dependence on convention business. Its massive size meant enormous operating costs that couldn't be covered by falling occupancy rates. Heating and cooling 2,500 rooms with 1920s-era systems proved prohibitively expensive. Maintaining such a large property required hundreds of employees even during slow periods, creating fixed labor costs that consumed revenue. Staff unions negotiated higher wages that further pressured margins. The hotel couldn't lower rates enough to fill rooms without operating at significant losses. The Morrison closed in 1965, well ahead of Chicago's downtown nadir in the late 1970s, testament to how quickly the property had become economically unviable. Contemporary guests appreciated the convenient Loop location, walking distance to theaters, department stores like Marshall Field's, and business offices. Rooms were spacious by Chicago standards with high ceilings and good natural light. However, many found the hotel impersonal and worn, describing it as cavernous and institutional. The massive public spaces, lobbies, corridors, and ballrooms often felt empty outside major events, creating an eerie, echoing atmosphere. Guest rooms varied wildly depending on renovation status, with some retaining original 1920s fixtures while others had been updated. Demolition from 1965 to 1973 was accomplished in phases, with the property partially operating even as sections were systematically torn down. Guests checked in while wrecking crews worked on adjacent sealed-off wings. The First National Bank Plaza, later renamed Chase Tower, eventually replaced the Morrison, a modernist skyscraper representing Chicago's attempt to reinvent itself for the corporate service economy. The Stevens Hotel, Chicago. The Stevens opened in 1927 as the world's largest hotel, 3,000 rooms in a 25-story building occupying an entire city block on Michigan Avenue overlooking Grant Park. Built by the Stevens Hotel Company for $30 million, it featured its own power plant, hospital, laundry, and bowling alley. It remained the world's largest hotel until 1980. The hotel hosted the tumultuous 1968 Democratic National Convention, where protests against the Vietnam War and police violence in Grant Park spilled directly into the lobby in scenes broadcast live on national television. Cameras captured demonstrators chanting, "The whole world is watching," as police beat protesters with clubs, tear gas wafted through revolving doors, and bloodied activists were dragged through the marble lobby. Campaign staff for Hubert Humphrey and Eugene McCarthy watched in horror from upper-floor suites as their party imploded. The convention permanently associated the hotel with the 1960s conflict and division. The building's facade was damaged by thrown rocks, and the lobby required extensive repairs. The hotel's immense size became a significant liability as operational economics changed. Air conditioning, the massive structure with thousands of windows, proved extraordinarily expensive, especially during oil crisis-era energy price spikes. Updating plumbing throughout 3,000 rooms required capital investments that occupancy rates couldn't justify. The property changed names repeatedly. Conrad Hilton, Chicago Hilton, Hilton Chicago, with each rebranding attempting to distance from previous controversies while updating dated facilities. Extensive renovations costing hundreds of millions occurred through the 1980s, 90s, and 2000s. The 1984-1986 renovation reduced room count from 3,000 to 1,544 by combining smaller rooms into larger suites, eliminating tiny single rooms common in 1920s design. Additional renovations in 1998 and 2000 2009, modernized systems and updated decor. These successive renovations eliminated virtually all original 1960s-era interiors. Even grand ballrooms were reconfigured, removing historical details for neutral contemporary design. 1960s guests were impressed by the grand scale, multiple ballrooms seating thousands, numerous restaurants, and endless corridors. Views from upper floors across Grant Park and Lake Michigan were spectacular. However, many found the property too large and impersonal, more convention center than hotel. Reviews frequently mentioned getting lost in identical corridors. The property still operates as Hilton Chicago with over 1,600 rooms, but after numerous renovations, almost nothing remains of the original 1960s interior beyond the basic floor plan and exterior architecture. The hotel that witnessed the 1968 convention effectively disappeared beneath decades of character-erasing updates. The original Waldorf Astoria Hotel, New York. The original Waldorf Astoria opened in stages, the Waldorf Hotel in 1893 at 5th Avenue and 33rd Street, built by William Waldorf Astor on his mansion site, followed by the Astoria Hotel in 1897 next door, built by his cousin John Jacob Astor IV, connected by the famous Peacock Alley, a 300-foot marble corridor where society figures paraded in their finest clothes. The joint hotel complex dominated New York society through the early 20th century, setting standards for luxury and service that defined American hospitality. Its 1,300 rooms hosted royalty, including Edward, Prince of Wales, presidents including Theodore Roosevelt and William Howard Taft, and industrial titans like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller, who maintained permanent suites. The Waldorf Astoria created or popularized numerous culinary innovations that became American standards. Waldorf salad, Thousand Island dressing, veal Oscar, and eggs Benedict all originated in its kitchens. The hotel introduced room service as standard amenity rather than special request. Its restaurants set the template for fine dining in America. Formal service, elaborate presentation, and cuisine matching European standards but incorporating American ingredients. During the 1920s, facing declining real estate values and recognizing the site's development potential, the owners sold the property to developers planning the Empire State Building. The decision was purely economic. The land was worth far more for commercial development than as a hotel site, especially given Fifth Avenue's transformation from residential to retail and office district. A new, larger Waldorf Astoria opened in 1931 on Park Avenue, designed by Schulze and Weaver in Art Deco style with 2,200 rooms. However, guests who stayed at the original experienced something the replacement never matched: intimate grandeur in Manhattan's most fashionable neighborhood. The original occupied Fifth Avenue when it was still a residential street of mansions and elegant hotels. The hotel was integrated into the social fabric, where wealthy families lived nearby and used it as an extension of their homes. Society figures maintained semi-permanent residences in suites, creating a community of residents who knew each other and staff who remembered preferences across decades. The original hotel closed in 1929, with demolition beginning almost immediately. The demolition took 2 years, with workers carefully dismantling ornate interiors and salvaging fixtures sold at auction. Thousands attended the final closing party, mourning the loss of a New York landmark. The event marked the symbolic end of Fifth Avenue's residential character. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.